Alright, so the last one we're going to do is secant. We'll find the period, the phase shift, and the vertical shift. And then we'll graph it. And we'll say y equals -2 secant of 2x minus 3 pi plus 4. Okay, so to find the period, it's 2 pi over b. B is 2 in this case, so 2 pi over 2, so it's pi. To find the phase shift, you set the parentheses equal to 0, and you solve. So 2x equals positive 3 pi divided by 2 divided by 2. So the phase shift is 3 pi over 2, which is the same thing as going 3 pi over 2 to the right. The vertical shift is the number on the end, so plus 4, so 4 up. So now we draw the box here, fill it in like we normally would. So we have 0, 1, -1, 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi. It's a secant graph. A secant goes with cosine. So I'm going to draw a cosine graph in, but I'm going to draw a negative cosine graph in because it's negative. So that means cosine would usually start at 1, but I'm going to have it start at -1. And I'll dot it in, so it would go like this. Everywhere it crosses at 0, I'm going to make an asymptote. And then I can draw my U's. Oh. You have to draw your U's where the tops and the bottom of the graph are. So you can see there's a half of a U here, but when we draw it on our graph, we're just going to make a full U. Alright, so from moving from left to right, we already dealt with the negative by flipping the graph. So now 2. So multiply the side by 2. 2, 0, -2. Then 2, here, you multiply everything by 1 over b, so that's multiplying this whole thing by 1/2. Which would give us 0, pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and pi. Then the phase shift says move everything 3 pi over 2 to the right, so you add 3 pi over 2 to everything. So that would be 3 pi over 2, pi over 4 plus 3 pi over 2. So I'd change this to pi over 4 plus 6 pi over 4, so that's 7 pi over 4. Pi over 2 plus 3 pi over 2 would be pi. I'm sorry, 2 pi. Three pi over 4 plus 3 pi over 2 would be 3 pi over 4 plus 6 pi over 4, so 9 pi over 4. And pi plus 3 pi over 2 would be 2 pi over 2 plus 3 pi over 2, which is 5 pi over 2. So you have to make sure that you're adding fractions in the correct way. Once you're done with the multiplying and the adding, you can box the bottom numbers. And the last thing you do is add 4 to the side. So 2 plus 4 is 6, 0 plus 4 is 4, -2 plus 4 is 2. Okay, so gonna draw in my graph here. Make sure everybody's paying attention. So I'm going to have these go by 1, 1, 2, and so on. And then I'll have the bottom of these things go by pi over 2. Actually, it'd be easier for them to go by pi over 4. So pi over 4, 1, this would be pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, pi, 5 pi over 4, 3 pi over 2, 7 pi over 4, 2 pi, 9 pi over 4, 5 pi over 2, and then that's all we need. So the asymptotes are at 7 pi over 4 and 9 pi over 4, so I dot those in. And the other two are half used, so you can see that these are 1, 2 across, so you can go 1, 2 in either direction, in front or behind, but you just need another U. So I just chose to do it in front. And then at 2 pi, this thing goes up and it starts at 6. So I go 2, 4, 6, put a point in and draw my U. Since this one is up, the next one's going to go down, and it's at 2 because that's the low point. So at 2, it goes down. And that's it. Instead of drawing a half and a half, it's easier to just, well, you should just draw one, full one. And just so you guys know, these are cycles, they continue. So if you were to go to the next one, it would start up at 6 and go up, and then the next one after that would start at 2 and go down, and so on. And it goes backwards that way too.